kids, before we get started, quick disclaimer to the parents. You might have seen the title of the video and thought, oh no. Um, I will make sure it stays at G, definitely nothing more than PG. So, last week, God made all these promises to David, right? And so now David is king, and so everything should just go perfectly, right? I mean, it should just be a wonderful kingdom and everyone is happy because David is such a good king. Is that ever how anything goes? No. So, of course, David is a person, which means he's going to make mistakes. He's going to mess up. Well, David messed up big time. So, one day, David, it's like such a nice day out. The weather's glorious, no clouds, just bright, sunny sun. And David's like, I want to enjoy this day. So he goes out to the rooftop, right, to enjoy the day. But as he's on the rooftop, he notices a few buildings down, there's a woman who's also on a rooftop. And when David sees her, it's like his heart just gets so full because to him, she's the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. And there's nothing about her that he doesn't want. And that's the problem, right? He doesn't even know who she is, but he wants her. And in his mind, he's like, well, I'm the king, so I get whatever I want, right? And is that how life works? No. Even if you're the king, you don't get whatever you want. And that's actually what Samuel warned the people about. He said, if you really want a king, he's going to take your daughters. He's going to take your sons and put them in the army. And we'll get to that in a second, right? So David wants to take her. He wants to have her. And so he asks the servant, like, who is that? Who is that beautiful girl, that beautiful lady? And the servant's like, oh, that's Bathsheba. David, when he hears her name, it's like, honey, sweet honey. He's like, oh, I love that name. Well, find out everything you can about her because I want her. Well, you know what? She already had a husband. She had a husband. So was she David's to take? No. Even if she didn't have a husband, did she even know David? Was she his to take? Is that what God would have wanted? No. But did David care? He did not. He knew what he wanted. And so when he found out that she was married, do you know what he did? He came up with a plan to get rid of her husband. Her husband was in the army, and they were about to go to a battle. And so David came up with this plan. He's like, I'll put her husband in the front lines where all the fighting happens. And so he does that. And do you know what happens at the battle? Her husband dies, right? Because he was in the front line, because David put him there, because David wanted him to die. He wanted Bathsheba so much and thought that he deserved whatever he wanted, that he even would kill someone to get her, right? Now, does this sound like the person that God wanted to be king, the person that God made all these promises to? This sounds like a really bad person. What happened to good David? Well, I think this is important to remember because all people have a mixture of good and bad in their heart. And it's really important that we figure out what we want to listen to. Do we want to listen to the selfish part that tells us, take whatever you want, you deserve it, it doesn't matter who gets hurt? Or do we want to listen to the part, that good part, that says, what would God want us to do? What's the most loving thing to do? What should we be doing? What would our mom and dad want us to do? Right? And we have to decide what we're going to listen to. And sometimes David listened to God, but other times he listened to that selfish part. Now here's the crazy thing about God in this story though. David does this awful thing. Awful. Do you think God's like, all those promises I gave you? No more. No more. You, do you think you get to be king anymore? No more. No more. That's not what God did. It's important to remember that God loves us no matter what and will always forgive us if we ask Him to forgive us. Always. Doesn't matter what you've done. David did these awful, awful things, and God forgave him. God forgave him. And God kept His promises, right? Because God's promises to David didn't just impact David, they impacted the whole world. Remember, this is God's rescue plan for the world. And God was going to use someone in David's line, in one of his descendants, to rescue the world. So God isn't going to give up on David because that would impact the rest of the world, right? So God always loves us and always forgives us, even if we mess up big, big time. And God keeps His promises. So it's great to know that about God, but we also need to know, what are we going to do? Which part are we going to listen to? Right? Selfish part, or the part that tells us what's the loving thing to do? What would God want us to do? So that's the Bible story for today. We'll be back next week with a fresh, new Bible story. I hope you will join us then. I miss you guys. I hope you're doing well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.